The year is 2015, and instead of an NBA Finals between Steph Curry and LeBron, the two are teammates playing for their hometown Cleveland Cavaliers. Today we're going to see how NBA history changes if everyone had to play in their home state. And as we move towards the present day, we'll see which city reigns supreme by winning the most championships. All starting off with our brand new 2015 Finals, where we'd see Steph and LeBron's Cavs up against Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kawhi Leonard, who are leading one of two stacked California teams. But while under normal circumstances, a prime LeBron and Steph would almost certainly be the title favorites every single year, because LA has their own Hall of Fame Big Three, plus a better supporting cast, they would be able to stifle Ohio's finest for now, and be crowned the first champions of our simulation in just 5 games. LeBron and Steph will be back, and are staying in Cleveland for the long haul. But their road to a title is going to be extremely difficult, especially as other teams start to develop. As entering the 2016 season, we'd see a new crop of rookies enter the league, namely Karl-Anthony Towns pairing with Kyrie Irving on the now New Jersey Nets, Draymond Green's getting his new running mate in the Motor City with Devin Booker, and Latvia native Kristaps Porzingis representing Team Eastern Europe, joining a team with Serbia native Nikola Jokic. But what's even more important than the draft would be the league's MVP, and it would be heading to the Windy City as Anthony Davis would win the award, leading an impressive Chicago squad to the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. There are so many good teams and players to cover, and we'll get to all of them at some point. But for now, 2 cities would easily be shining the brightest. LeBron and Steph Curry's Cavaliers would be returning to the finals up against the LA Clippers, the second of the 2 California teams, where despite the Lakers having the 3 best players from the state, the Clippers are just as dangerous, winning the first 2 games at home to put the pressure on Steph and LeBron. But while the Clippers may have some of the league's best players, the Cavs have number 1 and number 2. And in the case of Steph Curry, since we started in 2015, he hasn't experienced his real-life title run. So he's searching for championship number 1, to which he'd respond accordingly. The Cavaliers duo would be able to tie up the series with 2 wins on their home court, setting us up for a crucial Game 5 in Los Angeles.
Folks, it does not get any bigger than this. We've watched these 2 battle it out. Now 2 games apiece, essentially a 3-game series, 2 of the next 3 to win the World Championship.
And what gets lost in how good LeBron plus Steph are is the developing supporting cast around them, including CJ McCollum, who's not an all-star but one of the best players in that sort of category. So with the Cavs having a solid player like him and 2 legends on their side, they'll always have a shot, as they'd stifle the Clippers in their home building to go up 3-2, setting themselves up to complete their path to redemption and break a 50-year-long curse.
It's over! It's over! Cleveland is a city of champions once again! The Cavaliers are NBA champions!
So just like that, NBA history's changed dramatically. Steph Curry's a champion with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and with the 2 together, LeBron might be able to surpass Jordan's 6. Either way, the Cavs are one of the best teams in this universe, and it's going to take a lot for other squads to take them down. But that's also not to say that it's impossible. Take the Charlotte Hornets, for example, and they're absolutely stacked starting 5 with multiple current and potential All-Stars. They could be champions one day, similarly to the Washington Wizards, who are led by Kevin Durant and a plethora of the DMV's finest. And as previously mentioned, there's plenty of other teams ready to change history. We have to move on to the playoffs, where we'd see a surprising face enter talks for best player in the league.
This is my hometown. This is where I grew up. This is the city I represent every time I play.
Well, honestly, I see myself as the best player in the league, most dominant player in the league. You know, you only get a short window, and I don't want that window to close. So I think my time is now.
And the Chicago Bulls, the story continues as they now move on to the NBA Finals, representing the Eastern Conference. They're just 4 wins away from hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
And before we kick it off, it has to be mentioned how great of a season AD's having, as he had just won his 2nd straight MVP, averaging 25 and 15, while also taking down stars such as Carmelo Anthony, Kemba Walker, LeBron, and Curry. But the Chicago team he's on is far from perfect. Derrick Rose is still a solid point guard, but the other starters, namely Dwayne Wade and Andre Iguodala, are starting to get up there in age, which would wind up being a serious issue. The Lakers and their big 3 would jump out to a quick 2-0 lead in the finals, And while AD and D-Rose would be able to chip away at the lead one game at a time to go up 3-2, in the face of the NBA's best trio, that lead would evaporate. The Lakers would eventually win in 7, giving their big three their second titles. So while in this universe, Anthony Davis might be the league's most outstanding individual player, it's kind of a case of bad timing. By the time he's hit his prime, the rest of Chicago's supporting cast is already aging. Either way, Chicago has to be respected as a contender, but if they want to win a title, it's not going to be easy. Because in the 2018 season, the Eastern Conference would get much stronger as Missouri native Jason Tatum's heading to his closest hometown team, the Indiana Pacers. Plus, Donovan Mitchell would be heading to his hometown New York Knicks to try to help Melo win a title before it's too late. However, out west, it would be a very different situation. The Lakers, as good as they are already, would be getting some reinforcements with Lonzo Ball, which not only means that more of Chino Hill's finest is on the way in the future, but also that the Lakers are primed to repeat, starting with the first round where they'd be meeting up with Giannis and Team Western Europe. A very strong collection of players who still wouldn't be able to stifle the defending champs, as they'd wind up advancing to play the Clippers in the second round for our first Battle of LA. But while at any point this series could go either way, it would be the Lakers' big three again moving on to the Western Conference Finals, where they'd be meeting up with the Houston Rockets. But here's where it gets tricky. Despite the West largely being dominated by both LA teams, the Rockets, who represent all of Texas, have quietly been one of the league's best as well. And that puts them in a unique situation where they'd be receiving a major upgrade with the drafting of De'Aaron Fox, who despite being just a rookie would average 17 per game, shoring up the point guard spot and leading way for Jimmy Butler to do what he does best. The Rockets are advancing and the Lakers are making a sudden and unexpected exit. But before we move on to the finals, let's check out East, where we'd see a surprise upset out in Cleveland, as they'd be falling short to the New York Knicks. Which means to close out 2018, we would be having a brand new finals matchup between two different teams. But similarly to the Bulls from a season ago, New York's in an awkward spot with an aging star, and in this case, a rookie. And as a result, defeating LeBron and Steph to make it this far would be their only achievement on the year.
And they've done it, the new NBA champions!
The Western Conference would be reigning supreme once again. Jimmy Butler's a first-time champion, and the Lone Star State would be at the start to a fantastic couple of months. As in the offseason, a new crop of rookies would enter the league, one of which being Trae Young, who's heading to the defending champs. But they wouldn't be the only contender making a huge upgrade, as also entering the league at this time would be Jaren Jackson Jr., who's coming off the bench for a surprisingly stacked New Jersey team that has multiple all-star caliber players. And most interestingly of all, Team Eastern Europe would be adding Slovenia native Luka Doncic to complete their starting five. Both he and Jokic could very well one day be the NBA's best duo, one that could be good enough to overwhelm all of America and Canada, who also happen to be making a major addition with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The league's international talent has absolutely skyrocketed, and there's MVP level players coming from all around. But to close out the 2019 regular season, the league's most prolific import would be Giannis Antetokounmpo, as he would be winning this year's most valuable player. Team Western Europe has sort of flown under the radar to this point, mostly due to the Greek Freak not having a true sidekick. However, with the league MVP and someone who's certain to win some down the line on the way in the future, Team Western Europe could very well be champions one day. But for now, it's time to move on to the playoffs, where we'd see an interesting situation in the second round with the battle for LA. Once again, the Lakers have the best three players overall from California, but the Clippers have a deeper roster in comparison, leading to both teams going back and forth, resulting in a Game 7 to be played, where after a long battle, both teams will be separated by just 2 points with less than 90 seconds remaining. But what's very different between these two teams are their reputations, as the Lakers are two-time champions, while the Clippers' only appearance in the finals resulted in a loss to LeBron and Steph. So this Game 7 will not only determine who's advancing to the Western Conference Finals, but to also see if a brand new King of LA will finally emerge. Here we go, the battle for LA. It's a 2-point game. Westbrook, he's gonna miss the layup, point blank. With the game on the line, Game 7, it's still a 2-point deficit for the Lakers. The Clippers can extend it to 4. DeRozan with the jam. 59 seconds left to play. The Clippers, they might be getting revenge for last season. To advance to the Western Conference Finals, Westbrook into the paint. The left-handed layup is good. It is far from over. 47 seconds to play. Dame's gonna walk it up. The Oakland native, he's on the Clippers because there weren't enough players from Oakland. Blocked by Lopez. Had to throw that in there. I'm sure a couple people were wondering. Dame with the ball again. Over to DeRozan. Guarded by Aaron Gordon. 7 on the shot clock. Kawhi went for the steal. Didn't work out. Paul George is going to launch it over his former teammate from another universe. He misses it. Westbrook with the ball on the fast break. In the open floor. He ties it up with the slam. The Clippers call a timeout with 20.2 on the clock. Westbrook goes for the steal. Dame had some space, didn't shoot it. Westbrook gambled. It almost worked out. 12 seconds left. Dame with the ball. He's going to pass it over to DeRozan. Guarded by Aaron Gordon. 4 seconds left on the shot clock. The pass out to Dame for the win. It's good. 0.8 seconds. I said for the win, but I might have jumped the gun. There's still plenty of time left for a trip to the Western Conference Finals. Their opponent to be determined. 0.8 seconds left on the clock for the Lakers. They're going to pass it in. It's going to go to Westbrook in the corner with a lot of space. And just barely, the Clippers would be winning the Battle of LA to move on to the Western Conference Finals. In this universe, Russell Westbrook is a Laker legend, so you can't be too hard on him. But nonetheless, the Lakers will have to start from square one. But if you thought a second-round victory would eventually guarantee the Clippers a title, you'd be completely off base, as the conference finals would see them go to another Game 7 with the Houston Rockets, which would end much differently than their battle with the Lakers, as they'd be the ones eliminated. So with that being said, their core are all still ringless, and the 2019 NBA Finals would be between the Houston Rockets and a new challenger, the Washington Wizards, led by Kevin Durant. But while on first glance this team may appear to be a sleeper, that might not be an accurate description, as they were the East #1 seed. And with the Slim Reaper among the league's top 5 players at minimum, he will lead the way to get this one done in a relatively straightforward 6 games. The DMV has solidified their place as one of the best basketball regions, and as we close out the 2010s, the 3 most iconic faces of the decade all have at least one chip. Which is really fortunate for them, as entering 2020, we'd have a very unique situation unfolding in Charlotte, where the top 2 rookies would be from North and South Carolina, meaning they'd be teaming up on the Hornets. Zion Williamson and Ja Morant would be sharing the floor as perhaps the most athletic duo ever, and they could be the final pieces to a team that was already good to begin with. But for now, we'd be returning to Cleveland for the playoffs to check in on the league's best duo, as they'd be locked into a battle with Team Eastern Europe in the Eastern Conference Finals. Generally speaking, they've consistently been able to run the East, mostly due to their star duo, but also because of their improved cast of role players, making the roster much better than when we started in 2015. But despite that, the duo of Jokic and a second-year Luka would be nothing less than lethal, as they'd be the ones initially in control to go up 3-2. And while LeBron and Steph would immediately tie it up, for one very unique reason, their comeback hopes are far from guaranteed. Just by it being an international road game, the odds are definitely stacked against the Cavs, and with about 90 seconds left to play, while they would be up by 3, they'd barely be holding on to said lead. One that's basically nothing in the face of the NBA's next legendary duo. Here we go, Game 7, Eastern Conference Finals, Team Eastern Europe up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jokic in the post being guarded by LeBron. They get it right back to him. The pump fake. LeBron makes Jokic give it up. Over to Luka with 4 seconds on the shot clock. The floater on the baseline is good. One of these 2 teams is heading to the NBA Finals in less than 2 minutes. Steph Curry isolating on Luka. Good defense by Luka. Playing the defense of his life, it doesn't matter. And Steph Curry just shushed the crowd. There's about 1 million people in the stadium. Luka with the pass down to Jokic, blocked by Nance. Larry Nance Jr. with a huge defensive play. The pass over to McCollum in the corner. He misses the long 2. 58 seconds left. Luka with the ball. Luka driving into the paint. A lot of contact. No foul call. 51 seconds left. Some chaos down the stretch. The home crowd not a fan of the officiating. Steph Curry all the way to the basket. Cleveland might be returning to the NBA Finals. I don't know what just happened. 40 seconds left. Luka with the ball. Still plenty of time for Eastern Europe. Bojan Bogdanovic, he's gonna launch a three, and he hits it. He cuts it down to 2. Like I said, the door is still wide open, could go either way. For Eastern Europe, it comes down to defense. The pass over to LeBron, over to Steph Curry. They had to get a stop. 10 seconds on the shot clock. Steph Curry with the ball. Behind the screen. He pulls up from mid-range. It's good. Some huge buckets from Steph Curry down the stretch. It's a 3-4 matchup, so not a huge upset. But if Cleveland wins, an upset nonetheless. The pass over to Bojan in the corner. The pass over to Bogdan on the wing. Gets a screen from Jokic. Eastern Europe trying to make the comeback. 8 seconds left on the game clock. Not much happening. Good defense by Cleveland. Jokic is going to launch a 3, it's off, and that's going to do it. The Cleveland Cavaliers are returning to the finals. And just like that, the US has backed up its reputation for having the best players for now. But you do have to respect Eastern Europe as well, as they were almost able to take down the Cavs with Luka only in year 2. Give it a couple years' time and they could very well be champions as well. But for now, it's time to move on to the finals, where LeBron and Steph would be heading into Houston, taking over their arena, and winning their 3rd championship. The two are aging, so it's unclear when or if they'll have another run like this. So if it winds up being the last, they've definitely gone out with a bang. But with that being said, it's time to move on to 2021, where a few more important rookies would make their debuts. Starting with Anthony Edwards, who's teaming up with Jaylen Brown in Atlanta, forming a really exciting wing duo with a ton of potential. But of course, the main story of the regular season would be one of the most famous NBA players ever stepping into Hollywood as a Laker. As LaMelo Ball will be teaming up with Lonzo, and while we're at it, Cello, to add to an already stacked Laker team that has 2 championships in this universe. But to keep the focus on LaMelo, to have a future All-Star come off the bench is a huge luxury, one that'll be especially important in the future as the Laker core ages, as eventually he'll wind up starting. But while one day he'll be the face of LA, it would actually be the Clippers making serious strides to win their 1st championship, as after sweeping Giannis and Team Western Europe in the conference finals, they'd be returning to the actual finals for the first time since 2016. Now up against the stacked New Jersey roster, making for duels all around. Kyrie and Damian Lillard would be going at it at the point guard spot, and while the Clippers are stronger at the wing, New Jersey's bigs would make up the difference, leading to another Game 7, which would be very different from those we've seen in the past. Last year's matchup between the Cavs and Eastern Europe was only the Eastern Conference Finals, and the battle for LA in the year prior was only the 2nd round. So with it being Game 7 of the actual finals, and more importantly a battle between stars who are all searching for their 1st title in this universe, it's safe to say that the stakes have never been higher. It's only right that this one would be going down to the final shot. 14 seconds left, Game 7, Brunson with the ball. Out of the timeout. Who's taking the final shot for New Jersey? 8 seconds left. Guarded by Klay Thompson. He gets a screen from Cat. He's going to pull up on the right wing. It's off. Rebounded by DeRozan. And the LA Clippers would be winning their 1st championship in this universe. An achievement most meaningful for guys like Damian Lillard and Paul George, who haven't been able to do the same in real life. In some ways, it's a surprise that it took them so long. But it's an achievement nonetheless, setting us up for the 2022 season as other teams would try to build up their squads to beat them. Starting with the Rockets, who are getting a rookie Cade Cunningham. While it's a bit of a logjam with 3 point guards on the roster and only so many minutes to go around, talent is talent and they just added a bunch more. Speaking of, the Miami Heat, who are representing all of Florida, have largely struggled in the past few years. But the addition of Scotty Barnes will help them out a ton as a future star player. But when it comes to the finals, it would be LA making their return. Only this time, it's the Lakers, who are 2 for 2 in their finals appearances, facing up against Team Eastern Europe, who's got a couple more years of experience under their belt after their loss to the Cavaliers. So when you add in the fact that Eastern Europe would have the league's best duo, with Luka Doncic winning this year's MVP with a triple-double average, the final result would be an easy 5-game victory for Eastern Europe to complete their redemption, being the first ever team to eliminate the Lakers in the finals, giving their star duo their 1st championships. And with it, the NBA would be showing signs of an international takeover. Because entering 2022, we'd see a brand new league MVP emerge up north, as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would be putting up a whopping 35 points per game to win this year's award. Overall, Team Canada's roster doesn't have the depth to make consistent deep playoff runs, but if that's the case, to have a yearly MVP contender is definitely the next best outcome. And he wouldn't be the only player changing their legacy in this universe, as Zach LaVine, a player who through no fault of his own has seen very little playoff success in real life, would see his fortunes make a 180, leading the one-seeded Seattle/Oregon Supersonics all the way to the finals. And with another all-star in Domantas Sabonis, plus a future one in Paolo Banchero, if it wasn't already, you can stamp the Pacific Northwest as a very strong basketball region. But unfortunately for them, that would be where it ends, as awaiting them, it would be the previously mentioned duo of Ja Morant and Zion Williamson leading the Charlotte Hornets. And when you have an old, but still very good Chris Paul running the second unit, plus some really strong scoring at the wing, the Charlotte Hornets are one of the most complete teams in the league, led by two players who are in their early to mid-20s, making them one of the best potential teams of the decade. And that would be the start to the NBA entering a new era. 2024 would see Victor Wembanyama join up with Giannis and win the Rookie of the Year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would be bringing another MVP trophy up north. And the finals would see the return of the Charlotte Hornets and the Los Angeles Lakers, who are now starting LaMelo Ball in favor of an aging Westbrook. A decision that would ultimately age extremely well, as he would lead his team all the way to a 4-0 sweep to win his first championship and his first finals MVP. Which leads us to the present day and the closing of the curtain on our experiment. LeBron James and Steph Curry have combined for 3 titles as teammates on the Cavaliers, and since we started in 2015, if you want to add LeBron's prior titles with Miami, he's finishing with 5. And speaking of championships, while Chicago won 0, they quietly had a very successful decade. Anthony Davis would have 3 MVPs to his name, and Derrick Rose had a very good and healthy career in the background, playing an extra season than in real life to eventually finish 13th all-time in scoring with over 28,000 points. And it's only fitting that his career is concluding with his retirement as a lifelong Bull. But to look towards the stars of the future, it would be Shai winning his 3rd straight MVP after averaging 35+ again, leading his Toronto Raptors all the way to a Cinderella Finals appearance up against the LA Lakers. Keep in mind, this experiment started with them winning a title back in 2015, and about a decade later, while the league looks completely different, our long journey has led us to the exact same place.